Hello everyone, and happy Sunday and happy Labor Day weekend. Hopefully most of you are having like an extended break, maybe have tomorrow off. And whenever we have any kind of a break like this, I mean, if it's a weekend, it can be a night, but especially like an extended kind of out of the norm break, it's a really good time to bring ourselves back into balance. So taking an inventory of life, like what's going on, if there's something that's feeling a little off, you're not in harmony with it, then what is it that's going to need to be subtracted from your life or maybe added to it to kind of bring yourself back into that coherence? And so hopefully whatever that is, whether it's relaxation, maybe it's going out and doing something, time in nature, time with people, reading, maybe not doing anything, or maybe it is doing a lot of things like cleaning or getting your house in order, whatever it might be. Hopefully you are having that opportunity to accomplish just that this weekend. And then we'll jump into our oracle reading for this week. And I pulled from the Mystical Shaman Oracle deck. And this week I pulled the card Corn. So it's kind of interesting just because if you drive around the country like I do, tend to do a lot, there's corn all around us. I live in the Cornhusker state. So, and it's like they're cutting it for silage at this point. Doesn't look too good. It's been pretty dry, but it's just kind of that time for harvest. And so corn in and of itself, even if you're not a corn husker, is really about the mother of like sustenance, and it's a tangible abundance, and it's there. It's that harvest. It's the fruits of our labor. And so when we see, and you can see in this picture, it just looks so full of life and there's so much of it. And so it really is like focusing on the symbol, the material possessions of prosperity in our world of form, because we live in this world of form. And so it's all about that stability, being when we have a good harvest and we feel a little bit better, we feel like we're being taken care of and there's just more than enough. And so that's really what this card symbolizes. And I pulled it upside down. So then it kind of indicates that there's something out of balance for whoever's watching this. You get to take away whatever it is for you and the meaning that you associate with it. And so there's a lesson to be learned for each one of us. This is meaning, because it was pulled upside down, is that we have to be more intentional than ever when it comes to like that prosperity and the fruits of our labor. So it could mean that we need to be aware if we're kind of finding shortcuts or different kind of fast tracks towards our goals, because sometimes that's only going to create more problems. When we think about, what farmers have to do or our gardeners have to do in order to get the fruit, we have to have patience and we have to be able to adjust along the way based on weather patterns or just who knows what's going on in the environment. So it's being very intentional, and it's asking us to be very mindful of any feelings of entitlement. Just because we want something does not mean that we're just going to get it, without really having intention towards it. So it is asking to really think about like focusing on gratitude, to have some humility, and perseverance throughout all of this, that we're not just entitled to the fruits of our labor just because we're here, that there's a process, and part of the process is so important in our human journey of like human school, like this earth school that we're at. And so it's really telling us that we have to be very mindful or prepared to work towards our goals, and that when we have those desires that we want or whatever we're working to, that we set those intentions respectfully and very consciously, that it's not going to be something that we just haphazardly throw out there and then expect that somebody provides it for us, that's not really the energy exchange that takes place in this universe. And so another thing that we have to be mindful, so maybe one of those doesn't quite resonate with you, but maybe this does, that if we have that scarcity mindset, that can be a blockage to the abundance that we seek, that feeling of just security. And so we tend to not have, or tend to take on the scarcity mindset when we don't feel like there's enough to go around for everyone. And sometimes then we end up coming at our goals from a place of fear and instead of a place of love. We might look at other people as competition and then develop like problems in our relationship and our teamwork, that sort of thing. And it creates problems in our life instead of like opening us into the flow of abundance. And so if we can get our mindset instead into this idea that there's always more than enough, that we are going to be provided for, that we will reap what we sow in due time with patience and with perseverance, and knowing that we'll be provided for, then we can trust that process. We can expect that whatever's meant to be for us will be, that as long as we stay with that intentional focus and keep kind of staying the course, then that's going to be what happens. And so maybe you're in a time in your life where you've realized that whatever the goal, whatever it is that you're kind of working towards, that maybe you didn't plant well, that maybe like we're going to just use the metaphor of a gardener, like you're getting to the point and you're realizing that the fruit isn't producing, and that maybe you planted it in the wrong soil, or maybe there was a drought, or you have this fear that maybe it's not going to come, or maybe you know it's not going to come. To know that it's okay, that this is why we have seasons, that there's a season for this and there's going to be another season to come. And the reason why this all is so important is because through the journey you've learned this year or this season what did and what didn't work. And so then next season you can readjust, and then hopefully then through that process of learning and evolving, then you'll be able to reap what you sow. And at that point it's going to be so much more meaningful than if it was something that was just handed to you or just given. And so that is part of it, that whole idea of, success and failures and this life school that we're at. And so with the energy of the corn, knowing, again, trusting the process that we will be provided for. Maybe it's not immediately, but just trusting that it will be there and enjoying the journey along the way. All right. We will see you next week.